Hey everyone, and welcome to our review of Aokana 4 Rhythms Across the Blue. This review was written by visual novel fan and expert Miguel Marin, also known as Marin. Let's see what they think. As demonstrated by works like Slam Dunk or Haikyuu, sports and action in manga anime can be a match made in heaven. Aokana 4 Rhythms Across the Blue, however, goes into a different direction by creating its own fictional sport rather than trying to recreate an already existing one. With its mix of romance, comedy, and sport goodness, Aokana attempts to deliver the complete package. Now the question is, did it stick the landing? In my opinion, it absolutely did, with flying colours even. Let me tell you why. Aokana takes place in Shoto City, a small archipelago town made up of 4 islands where its residents carry on living their peaceful lives. There's just one small peculiarity about this town, however. Everyone goes from place to place not by foot, but actually flying around. That's not to say that this town is made up of superheroes. The actual reason that they can fly is thanks to a new invention called anti-gravitational shoes, also known as grav shoes. With such a nice little gadget, it's only to be expected that a sport would be born out of it. Enter Flying Circus. No, nothing to do with Monty Python. A one-on-one sport which would be better described as a mix between a race and a game of tag, except in this sport both participants are flying well above the sea. Due to its high grav shoe usage and its love for Flying Circus, Shoto City has become a focal point for Flying Circus aficionados all around the world. It's in this town where we find our protagonist, Hinata Masaya, a once Flying Circus young prodigy that decided to quit after an unfortunate incident. It affected him to the point where he thereafter avoided using his grav shoes as much as possible. One day on his way to school, he stumbles across Asuka, a new transfer student to his school, with whom their paths will ultimately become intertwined. Masaya's growth as a character is something the game does really well. It understands when it's time to give his development some attention without it being too rushed nor dragged on and on. Structurally, the game is split into different chapters, each ending with a little preview of what's next to come. It kind of makes you feel like you're watching an anime instead, and it just works. Having such clear and diverse small arcs give the game a nice flow, with some chapters focusing on character growth while others are Flying Circus itself. It should go without saying that Flying Circus takes a big part in the overall story, and as such you'll be watching quite a few matches. With a simple sport by nature, the game eases you in nicely in order to not make it too overwhelming. Generally, I find action-orientated scenes in visual novels to be rather boring, but thanks to clever sprite usage and unexpected match outcomes, Aokana succeeds in making Flying Circus a sport that's actually enjoyable to watch. That being said, by the end of the final route, the repetition started to kick in. It is, however, still admirable how much excitement they managed to squeeze out of this fictional sport. But even if Flying Circus was the most boring sport to watch ever, the game would still be very entertaining thanks to its strongest aspect, its wonderful and hugely charismatic cast. I don't think there's a single character whose presence in a scene I didn't enjoy. They all have great chemistry between them, which leads to some really amusing and funny scenes. In fact, I like them so much that I wish some of those side characters received more screen time and maybe even their own routes. Speaking of which, Aokana, as hinted by its title, features 4 routes for each main girl. Each one is themed around the conflict between talent and hard work, with an appropriate amount of romance to give Masaya and the girl some nice character growth. I would say Asuka's route felt to me the better balanced out of all of them, with Misaka's being a close second thanks to its really interesting thematic approach. But honestly, all of them were very enjoyable. Getting into routes is also fairly painless. You won't get the bad ending unless you are really trying very hard. It's also worth mentioning the great localization effort by Neko Nyan Soft. The translation flows really well, and I don't think I ever spotted a single typo. On top of that, they even took the trouble to translate the CGs. This is a top tier localization through and through. It's also worth me, Jordan, jumping into this review right now to talk about how adult-orientated this game can be, or not. It has a higher age rating, which is surprising for the most part, until you get to the odd bit of fan service here and there. You'll find partial nudity once in a blue moon, boobies covered by conveniently placed objects and stuff. It's not egregious in any way, and the story is very much the focus here. But, just be a little careful about who you play the game in front of, because it does have its moments. You have been warned. Alright, in terms of visuals, every part of Aokana's visual department just screams quality. From the gorgeously detailed backgrounds to the beautifully expressive sprites, I became completely enraptured by its art style. I think it perfectly fits this visual novel's gentle atmosphere. I was particularly enamored by the backgrounds. While they aren't animated, they have so many little details, from characters just having their daily lives to small trinkets and decorations, that every time a new one showed up, I couldn't help but stare at it for a while to let it all sink in. The game's CGs are abundant and also just as wonderful. From time to time, there will also be the occasional chibi scene where the characters were represented by more cutesy art style to emphasize the comedy of that particular moment. Whenever visual novels do these types of scenes, I'm usually split on whether I like them or not. I often feel like they're trying too hard to be cute and funny. However, this really wasn't the case with Aokana. I actually enjoyed them quite a bit and would always look forward to whenever the next one would pop up. On top of that, some of them feature a little bit of animation, adding an extra layer of amusement. Needless to say, Aokana is a real looker. In terms of the audio, Aokana has an easy to listen to soundtrack that doesn't get too repetitive during the game's entire playtime. Maybe it's due to this that some of the main songs can blend together. The game, however, does have quite a few really strong tracks for when the action kicks in. It also generally reminded me of Grisaya's soundtrack. Turns out some of the composers that worked on that visual novel also worked on this one. As far as voice acting goes, while there's no English voice track, probably to be expected, what's here is all around just fantastic. It really elevates each character's personality and gives them the depth that they deserve. With the excellent delivery, you will find it hard not to care for all of them in the long run. In terms of value, Aokana is a deceptively long visual novel. It took me close to 50 hours to finish all 4 routes that the game has to offer, after which the game has one final unlockable extra scene. I will say, however, that while it is a beautiful bookend to the whole experience, it does not feel as essential to see the true endings as in other visual novels. It really is just one extra final scene, albeit a really nice one. On the plus side, this means that there is no real need to play through all the routes, and you can just choose to see those of the girls that you're most interested in. Even then, just reaching the end of a single route takes anywhere between 20 and 25 hours, which is pretty substantial for any visual novel. Overall, Aokana is a really pleasant visual novel and an extremely solid addition to the Switch's ever-growing visual novel catalogue. With its lovable cast and easy-to-follow pacing, it's an easy recommendation for both veterans of this niche genre, as well as those wanting to dip their toes into a more approachable release. Now, Sprite, if you'd be so kind as to give both Satuin and Madoka their own much-deserved roots, I would be very much pleased. Thanks in advance. It's an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, many thanks to Marion for writing this review for us. I think we really need to get your expertise on visual novels more often. What do you guys think? Who's going to be picking up this visual novel? Having captured the footage for this review myself, I was well impressed with this one too, and I wholeheartedly agree with Marion's take on it. If you watched all the way here, thank you so much, it really helps us out. Plus, big shout out to our YouTube members, including our executive producers, Gannicus, Dane Wilkinson, Brent McLean, Jonathan Rumo, and God of Resin. Thank you for your incredible support. We'll see you guys on the next one. We've got a lot of videos heading your way this week. A lot of stuff, so don't miss out. We'll see you over there. Take care.